it's good timing because, you know, all meditation is about pause. All meditation is about observation of whatever's happening. This is a great understanding of what meditation actually is. Again, there's many different forms of meditation. I'm going to give you some basic meditation from my perspective. Again, the benefit, as I was starting to say there, is the benefit of seated meditation is that it doesn't take the effort of the standing meditation. It's not as hard. It's not as hard on your body, okay? But the challenge with the seated meditation is actually staying awake, aware. Because the moment that, this is the part that I was starting to say is a little tricky to, not for me to explain or teach, but until your own mind gets it and the awareness dawns on you, it's hard to understand what is he even talking about. But I'll give you an example as best I can. I'm sitting there, I'm going to meditate, which again, I'll share with you a technique here soon. But you close your eyes, let's say, and you start to focus on your breath. And then things start to feel kind of nice. You start to get restful. Immediately, most people's consciousness jump right to the sleep category. You bypass meditation, you go right to sleep. Next thing you know, you're snoring. And then you wake yourself up. Okay? That actually shows, without any judgment, but it actually shows how unconscious our population is. If you get that, you get that. It's maybe hard to understand for some, but if you're skipping, let me say it like this. If you're skipping the spiritual aspect of yourself to only go from what you would call waking consciousness and then skipping to sleep, where you're dreaming dreams about information that you just journeyed while you were here in a waking state of consciousness, then all you've done is go from one side of the coin to the other side of the coin, and you're skipping over the most spiritual part of your own being. So some spiritual teachers, for example, will say that your own mind has been hijacked by this ego, by this robotic mechanism, and out of habit, you're repeating everything. In my book, I call it Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day. You're repeating things, you're repeating them. Maybe the faces are changing, maybe the names are changing, but the story is the same. And if the story stays the same, you get older faster. You get older faster, you break down faster, you know, so on and so forth. And it's not about worrying about any of that, but because that's the opposite of meditation. But meditation is, can I stop and pause and connect with something deeper than, oh, I wonder if I left the milk out. Oh, I think I'm eating this tomorrow. Oh, I think, you know, I should really lose weight. No, you know, I shouldn't. I think I look good like I am. I should look good like I am. My boyfriend should think I look good like I am. Like whatever the stories are, that is that robotic mind going. And for a lot of people, it goes all the time. Now, this is going a little deep for a beginning program, but you got me on a roll. So the question, so I'll keep it simple. If you want your life to get better, if you want to improve your health, we're like computers. We're like supercomputers. What happens if your computer is bombarded with too much information? What happens? Runs very slow, right? Its ability to function just goes away, right? And then pretty soon you need a new computer or whatever. You need a new hard drive. There's no more room for storage, right? You have to find ways to offload the storage that's already there. It's like what I told you earlier with the sponge. You have to find ways to get the grease out. Create space and bring in new energy. These practices are designed to do that. That's why they're called practices of purification. That's why they're called practices of alchemy, things like this. So seated meditation has its advantage. I whispered a little bit to its depths. It's a very deep practice. It's about you waking up from, as they say in India, Maya, waking up from the illusion, waking up from the idea that I'm David, I'm a body, I'm limited to only this, I'm limited to what my parents thought about me, I'm limited to whatever you think about me because I'm in uniform or not in uniform, or I'm naked or I'm not naked. I'm none of that. So, but neither are you. And our essence is something that we wash over in society. It's just washed over. It's blurred. It's very blurred. If you want to see it, you have to make time for it. You have to make it a priority. And as I was discussing with somebody on the walk over lunch there, is that, Felicia and I were discussing this, so is that every single one of you is part of the collective consciousness. I am too. We're all part of the collective consciousness. So imagine that is like one big field. Dan Aykroyd wrote about this in Ghostbusters. It was the slime underneath the city, right? That movie started hitting so real and hit so deeply home that they apparently wouldn't let him make the third or the fourth one. He was apparently stopped by outside forces. You can watch that. There's like a YouTube thing on it or something. Because that slime was a metaphor or an analogy for molten lava. Human consciousness is connected to molten lava. Molten lava is connected to the sky and the weather and so on. So the human consciousness has an influence on weather and weather patterns and what's happening in a city and what's not happening in a city. They followed groups of monks. There's this one group of monks they followed for many years, and they go to these cities and they meditate. Every time they go there, they check the crime rates and everything. And it's really amazing to see how that changes. You guys are that force here today, whether you realize it or not. And every single one of you should pat yourself on the back right now for being here and having made it here, because I told you already, we had even way more sign-ups, and we got a lot of phone calls. People really genuinely wanted to come. Things got in the way. What's always getting in the way is your inner saboteur, your inner ego, your limited mind, your personality, so on. And I'm, as best as I can tell you, it is a very tricky labyrinth. I've listened to all the coaches. I've studied the spiritual stuff. I've done all these things. But I could tell you what my experience is of it. My experience of it is that mind and those patterns are so locked in. That's what we call the subconscious. That's why you cannot just sit there and go, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I'm beautiful. I talk about that kind of stuff in my book, but I try and point out to people, if it was that simple, you could just do that, walk out the door, and you'd be healed. You somehow have to find ways to influence the subconscious mind. Standing tree meditation, if I were to stand here and I were to go like this, I'm going to ask you guys a question, okay? So take a look at standing tree meditation. And I'm going to ask you the question, and I just want you to, speak out the answer whenever you desire. So here's the question. What does this posture mean?
Grounding. Grounding. Neutrality. Balance. Presence. Stability.
Good, we're getting some good ones in there. So grounding, stability, okay, all these different things that this means to us, balance, so on, right? You know it right away. I just stand in the posture right away. You already know the answer. This is what it means, right? So same thing. If I were to sit in some form of seated meditation, right? I'll just do it like this so I don't mess up the microphone, but let's just say I'm here. I close my eyes. Stillness, presence, peace, centering, for those who are at home who couldn't hear that. You guys know what it means. You know right away when I do it, you know what it means. By the way, that's why my book has pictures of me doing stuff. It's not because I'm all vain and, some people like, oh, he's just taking pictures. No, take a look at some of those. There's later I'll show it to you. There's a picture of me standing. I'm like on a big tree. And I'm very focused and very intent. And that tree was like cracking on the edge of this very steep cliff. And if you look at my face on that picture that I didn't even think we could capture, we captured it in seconds. And I started to lift my hands like that. That tree started going, So it became a challenge for me. Can I do this? So when you see that picture, and I'm literally standing there in what's called an enhanced standing tree meditation, and I'm on top of this thing that's going like this, and there's a cliff behind me, and my one bail is that I can jump here to the hill that's going to save my life. And I'm just so intent and so focused there. Bam, she captured that picture. That's what you see on my face. That's why the picture is there. When you see me standing in the river and I don't have my shirt on, I had somebody actually send something the other day on Facebook, like how vain it is for me to, she's like, if it worked for the Qigong masters of the past to not wear a shirt, they would have not worn a shirt. And so I texted her back politely, and I just said, Google Shaolin monks, Google Qigong masters, and you're going to see 50% and 50%. 50% of them are going to have no shirt, 50% of them are going to have a shirt. It's based on the weather. It's based on how they feel. I'm somebody, and I told her, and I honestly, I made a joke about it, and I just laughed about it. And Tanya will laugh about this too. She already knows, and Bella knows. Like, I'm like Tarzan. I go out in that jungle, man. I should like just my underwear on. Just go out there and then live in the jungle. Like that's how much I love nature. And I feel it, and I breathe it, and I'm one with that nature. Nature is extremely healing. But you know what these things mean right away. Any of these positions, how that looks on my face. You guys are astute enough. I might ask another audience that's half asleep, and they go, I don't know what it means, I don't know. But you guys right away, like balance, confidence, whatever, the different things that you see. So that's me expressing through form, but I'm doing it with my mind. So these practices are about, forget about the 100 ways you can do it. What are the 2 ways you're going to start with? And so if seated meditation becomes the better way for you, just like it better, you're like, okay, your one challenge is, I can't fall asleep. I have to try and stay awake. And I'm going to show you that in a minute because we're going to do a seated meditation. And then lying down, the thing I love about lying down meditation is also very similar to like if you came into my office and lied down on my table. You're resting and you're relaxed. I'm doing the work. That's a great combination. It's also a great combination when you lie down and you're in bed and you lay your hands on yourself, staying awake. It's okay if you did it at night and you're going to fall asleep or whatever, but it's also very powerful if you did it some morning, set the alarm early, and for a half hour before you got out of bed, you just laid your hands here, laid your hands here, laid your hands here. The way I've been teaching this for years is that, like, I started discovering after when I first graduated high school, I was practicing like 8 hours a day, 6 days a week. Martial arts, Qigong, I was like in it. It's practically just living in the place, right? They would leave for lunch and lock me inside. And after just a couple years of doing that, my hands were so charged, and I felt that emanating from here. So martial art, I told you earlier, martial art, golf, anything. We punch, we kick. I almost took the chair with me, but I was sensitive enough to notice my heel was catching it anyway. But if I were to kick or whatever it is, okay, that power doesn't just come from the physical body, it's what you're doing from that core, what you're doing from lower dantian. Anyway, it took a lot of beings to practice that, to discover lower dantian, for someone to then just say to you, here's a shortcut, I want you to focus on lower dantian for a half hour before you get out of bed. Thousands of years of practice. And then somebody hands you that. You could go home, practice that, hold that 30 minutes, whatever. It will start changing what's going on in your body. So that's a benefit of lying down meditation, all right? Okay. All right, with that in mind, there's some references to meditation. Now I said something. We want to influence subconscious mind, right? So many tricks out there of the trade. Let's hypnotize you. Let's talk like this. Right? But one way is to hold your body in such a way. You know how I said to you, I asked you, what does this mean? The whole time, I'll say it like this, let me do it like this. When in your life, other than standing tree meditation, when in your life, other than seated meditation like I showed you, do you ever see anyone at the bank? Right? Do you see? That's right. This is my timeout. I'm just good. I'll be with you in just a second. right? How often do you see it? You don't ever see it, right? It has a very specific meaning to it. It's the same for seated meditation. Unless you're going to a yoga class or something, who sits in seated meditation, once in a while. You maybe know somebody now, meditation's catching on. Person might be sitting on their desk meditating. But in general, it has a very particular meaning. It's not just a meaning to you, it's a meaning to your own mind and your own brain. So check this out if it makes sense to you. The moment you go into one of those positions, the moment you go into one of those postures, you start tapping into the collective consciousness of people who have actually practiced those practices. It's called downloading. With computers, we call it downloading. You start downloading information. But here's the thing. The greatest place of the download is the place in between sleep and in between awake. That's called meditation. If you're wide awake, it isn't going to work very well. And if you're fast asleep, it isn't going to work very well. So we're going to try and work in a very powerful pocket. And I'm going to teach you the beginning of a practice that I highly recommend, even if you did it for 5 minutes and thought nothing was working, because it's the place of power that lives inside you. And you can either manifest, create, and attract things and people and places and so on in your life through your habits, or you can get into that quiet pocket, even though it might be noisy in your brain. You can get into a pocket like that that is very powerful. And if you give it 5 minutes of your time, if you give it 10 minutes of your time, my experience with this pocket, some call it source, some call it presence, it's a silent whisper. But it will come in. And all the noisy music in the world will not keep it out. So if you take the posture, if you take the position, if you do the breath, and sometimes we use mantra. Why do we use mantra? Some people think it's a dogmatic thing. This teacher said this, that teacher said that, so everybody walks around, they pray and they chant, and some people get somewhere with that, and some people get nowhere with that. Scientifically, there's a reason we can use mantra. And you could use any mantra you want. You can make up whatever you want. It doesn't have to be what the Buddha did or what somebody else did. It's about what you do. In order to hijack the hijacker, the one that's got control over your mind, everybody tap yourself right here on the front of your head. This is called your third eye, but right behind this skull here is called your frontal lobe of your brain. When your habits have control of the frontal lobe of your brain, you are a robot. If you want to change your life, you have to put something different there, because whatever you put there, that's what you're focused on. That's where you're headed. That's where you're going to go. So let's say you're trying to better yourself and there's a whole bunch of crap coming up into your head trying to stop you from doing that. Well, then this is a hijack. Because in order to do all that, I have to take control of this. And when I'm taking control of this in the way that I just showed you, I can't be thinking about all that other crap. There's a lot of things you can do and think about all kinds of crap. You can make food, thinking about all kinds of stuff, blah, 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 blah. You start doing Qigong like this and try and memorize positions and movements, you can't think about it all. All right? So let's do a practice right now, meditation. And we're going to do all of those things I just talked about. We're going to put them all together in an actual practice. So here we go. We're going to do it seated. We'll do this one seated. So make yourself straight upon your spine, because you want the energy to rise upward. One of the hardest things people are going to be challenged with here is being still for a few minutes. That's number one. Number two is passing out, falling asleep. So I recommend, if you're a beginner, you're new to it, just keep your eyes open and gaze. Like, don't close your eyes, because then your body will be like, okay, it's time to go to sleep. So keep your eyes open, but don't be looking all around the room, because that dissipates your energy and your focus. Okay? If you feel like you can stay awake and you're good closing your eyes, feel free, close your eyes. Okay? Now physically, make your body still. By making your body still, you start gathering energy to yourself. Whether you realize it or not, you are. We started out with an idea today, going from stress, fight or flight, into rest and digest. And now we're taking the conversation further from rest and digest to something called inner peace. Inner peace does live within you, it's true. But inner peace is also a physical and a biological thing. We need to change what's going on in our hormones. We need to put some new medicine into our blood. So I recommend starting with a little bit of a quote-unquote mantra. Starts like this. It's not exactly a mantra, but it is in a way. 10, you say to yourself. 9, I'm becoming more and more still. 8. Slowing down my breath, slowing down my heart rate without knowing how. 7. This is where some of you will need to will yourself to stay awake. Put the body to sleep, but your mind, your awareness needs to stay awake. 6. Becoming more still. 5. 4. Somehow going deeper into meditation without really knowing how. 3. Becoming very focused but relaxed right in between your eyebrows, right at your forehead, right at the frontal lobe of your brain. 3, 2, 1, 0. Be very still. Watch your saliva. Watch your breath. Staying awake, alert, but still. And if for any reason you start falling asleep or something, as a beginner, just blink a few times. Gently bite the tip of your tongue, very gently. Pinch yourself, something just enough to like, stay awake, stay awake. Because what you're falling asleep into is heavy energy. That's a simple way of describing it. Heavy energy, heavy emotions, you need to rise above them. So now you're still. Now we're going to use a mantra. Later you can use whatever one you want, the one that I'll offer you today. Listen to it and you can whisper it along with me, just in your own mind, just sort of hear it. Plant the seed on your brain. Because whatever we plant as a seed on the brain in this way is going, second by second, it is going to influence your biology. Deep, inner, peace. Deep, inner peace. Deep, deep, inner peace. Deeper inner peace than I had 10 seconds ago. Somehow I'm going deeper into a deeper state of peace. Observing your breath. What is my breath doing? What is my breath doing? If and when you start to lose awareness of your breath, you will pass out, you will fall asleep. What is your breath doing? Don't try and control it, just observe your breath. My breath is moving in, my breath is moving out, I'm not breathing. Whatever your breath is doing, observe your breath while staying still. As a side piece, keep observing. Maybe for you, some saliva building up there at the back of your tongue, the back of your throat. Just observe it. Deep inner peace. Imagine like a balloon or a bubble. And inside the bubble, if you can see that, if you can't, just feel it, whatever sense you can sense it with. Some of you are visual, some of you are kinesthetic, some of you are more auditory, focused. So, but you might see a balloon. And in that balloon, it says deep inner peace. And then the balloon drifts off, coming off of your own brain, like sending a message out there into the universe. You might see a text message, and you're literally typing that to a friend, a cohort, a family member. And you literally type the words in bold, big letters, deep inner peace, and you send it off as a text. Deep inner peace. Deep inner peace. You see, whatever you focus on, deep inner peace, deep, deep, deep inner peace, for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, deep inner peace, as a thought, it becomes an intention, and that intention begins to influence what is going on in your biology. And yes, also your energy system, but your biology is part of your energy system. Deep inner peace becomes a message that begins to be delivered throughout the body, throughout the nervous system. Now, the next obstacle that you all as seated meditators will face, is the stiffness, the discomfort. If you stay awake and you don't pass out, you don't fall asleep, some of you will feel stiff, heavy in different places. Bring deep inner peace right to that area of your body. So if right now your shoulders are bothering you, literally take that balloon, put deep inner peace in it, and put that balloon right into your shoulders. If you are having some type of condition in your body that's not doing well for you, literally take those words, deep inner peace, and plant those in the belly, for example. Now the different cadence, deep inner peace, deep, deep inner peace, 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 deep inner peace. Different speeds are heard by different areas of the brain. So if that's having an influence on you, you'll know why. That's one of the reasons that it is. Deeper inner peace. And now we're going to practice a little bit of patience as well, because I want you guys to stay here just long enough until I feel the collective in the room, and even those that are perhaps not even here but tuning in today, where this deeper breath comes for you guys. Because if you can stay with this just long enough, every one of you would get a deep breath. Not a deep breath you try and take, but a deep breath that it really feels like it's taking you. That's the ideal kind of breath. You can't always have that, but it's something that I want to whisper to you about, and hopefully a few of you will have it. Because if you can sit still and you can be aware and you can focus on something like deep inner peace just long enough, all of a sudden there's this spaciousness in your body and in your energy field and in your blood. And literally the kidneys will open up and all of a sudden there comes this deep in-breath and it's like, whoa, like nice relaxation. Where did that come from? You made it happen. Deep inner peace. Deep inner peace, deep inner peace. Thinking of an area of my body that I might desire healing, deep inner peace, deep inner peace. One more time, we're going to do a shorter version, but here we go backwards from 10, becoming more still, deep in your meditation, 9, deeper in your meditation. And the text stream comes and it says, deep inner peace. Some of you at this point in the meditation will be feeling like a vibrating energy, like a rocking sensation. But in order to experience that rocking sensation, that change in temperature, etc., the first thing you have to get through is that desire to pass out, that desire to fall asleep. But even that's okay if you do, because it really means that your body and your own mind just needed some sleep for a minute. Deep inner peace, deep inner peace, deep inner, deep inner peace. And now there's a little trick of the trade. It's practice in yoga. Sometimes it's not necessarily practice with the knowledge that I'm going to share with you, but the knowledge is this. When you have an energy that you're working with, such as deep inner peace, and you've had a little bit of success with it, or even a little bit more than a little success with it, just see if you notice what this sound does to your own energy system. Just be very still for a moment, knowing that this is as deep as this meditation is going to go right here. This is as deep as it's going to go. This is its deepest place. You're about to step out of meditation, but before you do, you worked hard to get here. Don't miss this last minute of it. Even though you may contemplate, some of you may contemplate, maybe I did, maybe I'm getting something, maybe I'm not. Here's the thing. In the next minute, be open to a message. It's not going to come in a whisper. It's going to be silent. But be open to a message. Be open to a seed that gets planted because your mind is open. And when that seed is planted, it changes your life next week. Changes it today, but you see it also next week. Say to Spirit, say to God, say to the Tao, whatever you call all of that existence, I'm open. I'm open. I'm open to receive that silent transmission. And then when you're ready, take a breath, breathe into that, breathe deep. Inhale, exhale. So let it out, and then do that 2 more times. Inhale and exhale. Nice. And then you can slowly just, start to move your body slowly, start to kind of stretch. So here's something that if I was you, I would want to know. And every once in a while, somebody will ask. When you practice standing tree meditation, when you practice still meditation, if you make it past the sleepy phase, if you make it past falling asleep, if you make it past passing out, etc., you get to a place where you're going to feel very uncomfortable in your body. There's a reason people don't go to Buddhist retreats, for example, to meditate 8 hours a day. They'd rather run up a mountain because it's easier. It can be very uncomfortable for some people, more than others, but it gives you a rough idea. And it's crazy, like when I first started doing it, I'm like, I lift weights, I do martial arts, I'm like, all of this, I'm gonna stand, I'll stand like this, all right, An hour later, like my shoulders are screaming, I'm going, what is going on? I'm not even moving, I'm not bench pressing anything, I'm not doing anything, right? When I first started doing some of this stuff, this one, there's one called hugging the tree or standing like a post. This is a Qigong exercise. It's very difficult for most people. We're not starting with it today, but it was for me. It was so hard. I held my hands like that for literally like a minute, and my shoulders and my neck were screaming. I was like, what is going on? What is this about? This is showing you simply where your energy is stuck. That's one way of saying it. But if we get a little more specific, you are actually becoming aware of what is called the emotional body field. Not just the physical body, you're becoming aware of what is called the emotional body. And this world, this planet that you know, which is why I'm on such a mission on the level that I am, because this planet that you know, including the trees being here and not being destroyed and everything, in order to not have, some people are out going like, don't cut down the trees. And it's awesome. Thank you for those people. Greenpeace, etc., right? My thing is, get people connected to those trees so they stop cutting them down. That's my mission. My mission is get people connected to nature, get people connected to themselves. And then what you all do, that I can't do it all, I can't save everybody, save everything. But that's like my focus. My focus is if I can help you come back to center, if I can help you come back to clarity, I can help you come back to breath, etc., then like, you're not going to have the desire to just go, which is happening in Wilmington right now, let's just go wipe out all those trees and put in like a gazillion homes and not leave one tree. Just take it all out, put in all homes. And it's happening all over and whatever. Anyway, so I'm doing my part as best I can. Come here to the trees, have you guys connect to the trees. People who want to come back to nature, people who want to be peaceful, people who want to connect and so on, that's what stops you from just going and leveling everything, so on, all right? So, and this disconnected state is related to the emotional, simply put, the emotional past, but it's like all the emotional rubbish, all the garbage, all the trauma, all the, that's in your body. It's in your body, but it's even more in your body like how a tune would be played on a string of a guitar. There's a certain tune going through your tissues. There's a certain tune going through your organs, so on. That's related to your emotional body. So meditation will help you find it. That's why a lot of people don't like it. As you start meditating, you immediately find your pain, and then people go, wait a second, I thought I was practicing for peace. You are. But you have to move through the pain. Sleep, then okay, now I'm awake. Oh, I feel kind of peaceful. Oh, what is that in my shoulder? Oh, what is that in my hip? I'm saying deep inner peace, deep inner peace. What is going on? You know what I find interesting? A lot of teachers won't teach that, and they won't tell you about that, and they won't talk about it. Those teachers tend to have much larger audiences. Because it sounds good and it seems nice and it seems very freeing. The truth is, there's nothing wrong with you when you go home and practice deep inner peace and discover pain. I'm telling you ahead of time. I'm just being honest. Rather than telling you, oh, you need to come back and practice more with me and pay me more money and I'll teach you how to be peaceful. You have to move through these things. But here's the beauty of if you do, and that's why we're here today. We're all connected to this collective consciousness. I come back to that Dan Aykroyd thing and the slime thing and all of that. We're connected to the collective consciousness. So if you authentically find a smidgen of deeper inner peace, it's quantum physics. You just literally change somebody somewhere. You may not even consciously know them, way over here. I don't know about you, but when I think if you ever had this thought, but for me, after I healed my spine and I started getting on the bus, for example, that's one of the places I remember it, going to college on the bus. I started realizing that when I was having a bad day or I was having an emotional day or whatever the thing was, it wasn't all about me. It was happening in that city. It was happening in that town. It was happening in this country and that country. And now, hello, it's rampant everywhere. And the pressure's been intense. But here's the thing. That is one pool of energy. We're tapping into another pool of energy. So simply this is spoken by a lot of masters as duality consciousness, which is separation, you versus me, competition, all these kinds of things, and unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is not the pervasive consciousness on the planet right now. That's not how people live. But there are people like you and I who are trying to make that more real here. And in order to make that more real here, my sharing with you, my teaching to you is you have to embody it. It's awesome if there's a book over here on the shelf about peace. It's awesome that we have this amazing sign, by the way. Round of applause for Bella for creating that beautiful signage. She did that graphic design stuff. 13 years old, whipping it up on her iPad. It's pretty impressive. So while, in between writing her book, anyway, so that's pretty awesome. But the benefits of homeschool too. Take a little mom and dad credit, just a little. Okay, anyway, but she's a genius on her own. You got to let kids flourish. Stay out of their way. That's my advice. Stay out of their way, and they turn out great. just don't get in the way. But so when you go to a city, when you go to an airport, when you go to whatever, a restaurant, you can feel it. It's like, oh, I don't want to eat here. I don't want to, whatever. But again, that's happening all around, right? So Buddha, there's some teachings from Buddha, something along the lines of, being the lotus flower on the dung heap. Is you got a pile of crap over here. But if you can find some semblance of peace, you're literally changing the dynamic of what's happening in that place. And I'll finish this part with this. We'll have a little break, and then we'll go into some other practices and so on. Is that, for me, again, it's all like what I can speak to is my experience with it, right? And again, as I said earlier, like I'm right here with you all. I'm not here like, I'm a master, you're not, everybody bow down. Like, I'm here in this with you. I'm in this with you. We're all in this together. One planet, one earth, one air, one water, etc. A lot of people don't think that way, which is part of the problem, but some of us do. Some of us do. And Gandhi used to say, for example, be the change you want to see in the world. So I do my best to be the change that I want to see in the world. And like I said, the one thing that I just know I do, and I share it with you because I hope it's an inspiration to you to do it also. And even if you do it also already, then you go, yes, great, we're doing that together, right? So my thing is wherever I go, I'm doing that. So if I get on a bus, or if I go into a restaurant, or I go wherever, and Bella knows this because she'll be with me and we'll be doing things, and I'll say, you see that person over there? And she says, yeah. She knows right away, like that person's suffering, that person's having a hard time. We're going to sit there and send that person some loving thoughts, going to send that person some loving energy, so on. Everywhere I go, trying to lay down that type of consciousness. My day is pretty interesting. Actually, I told Taylor recently, maybe before he leaves the country here for a while, we get him to follow me around for a little bit, because literally all day long, and literally, like I'm driving my car. I know you shouldn't text and drive. I don't recommend it. Don't text and drive. You have to be a Qigong master to sometime. Anyway, I only do it when I'm parked, okay? Anyway, so but I will talk into my phone from these emails from clients and people that I'm coaching. And then meanwhile, and then I'm on with Tanya, and what do you think about this? And then we're making decisions about that. And then I'm off to see these clients, and then I'm off to teach that class, and then I'm off to teach jiu-jitsu, and then I'm back over here to do that. And it's like ongoing. And it's just become my habit now. All of it's my habit. And so, nobody can go into a gym. Let's say you want to lift 500 pounds. Nobody's going to go into a gym and lift 500 pounds on day one. You're going to lift 5 pounds maybe. And then tomorrow, you're not going to lift 10 pounds. You might be lucky to lift 5 again. And one of the things that human beings are afraid of, and I'm going to bring up a very touchy subject, I'm known to do that. That's why on Facebook you'll see, David stirred their pot. And David said, you'll thank me later. And it's true. You might thank me later. People are so afraid of failure. We're all afraid of failure. I'm afraid of failure. But the truth is when you fail, and then you fail again, and you fail again, you learn, you rest, you get stronger. That's what happens in the gym, and that's what happens in life. If I go in and lift weights today as hard as I can, because I want to be stronger, I go to the gym tomorrow, I'm weaker. I'm weaker today than I was, and I tried so hard. So one of the things why I bring Qigong to you, at first it seems, man, this is overwhelming. Could be, might be, you know. There's this, what should I practice? But here's the thing, you come back and see me 7 years from now, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still pitching the same pitch. I'm still teaching the same teaching. I may be coming from a slightly different angle that day, but there's going to be Qigong, there's going to be meditation, there's going to be some mindful practice, and it's called wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat, because it's the consistency that beats any habit. Consistency will kick any habit's ass. Positive thinking will not always kick a habit's butt. Other things will not always, but consistency, it will kick its butt. And when you hit it from this angle and this angle and this angle, and that just starts becoming your routine, it starts becoming your habit. So my thing is step in wherever you desire. You stepped in today, step in wherever you desire. There's no such thing as, what do I say? Like, there's no need for too much, too fast, or anything. Just take whatever you want, integrate it, see how it feels, and then go, oh, you know, I think I like that seated meditation. Let me find a little bit more of that. I like that standing meditation. Let me taste a little more of that. I like this. But then it gives you something to come back to, something to actually hang your hat on. Tanya knows, for example, like I can go very motivational and pump you guys all up and like, let's go. If there's no practices behind that, that's gone in 2 days. You know, like literally today, tomorrow, like I taught for years and I would try and pump people up, and I did. But I stopped doing it actually as much, because I started realizing, like, what people really need to know is there's a practice to come back to. I'm not going to try and pump you up all in one day. I'm not going to try and get you there. I used to try and get every audience I was ever with, get them there in one day, you know. The thing is, nobody's ever going to get there in a day. That's just philosophy. That's just an idea. Yeah, you may feel good, but then you got to go back to your everyday life. And in your everyday life, there's failures, there's challenges, there's discomfort, there's anger, there's sadness, there's grief, whatever there is for you, fatigue. But if you have the techniques and the tools to come back to, oh, I know I can go to standing tree meditation. I know I can go to seated meditation. Oh, I know that they're having a program. I can't make it to the Love, Peace, Amen Foundation program for free that weekend, but they're going to be in Raleigh over here. Oh, I'm going to visit my friend in Raleigh. Oh, maybe I can come to the program. Oh, you know, anyway, all of that kind of stuff gives you the opportunity to have something that's consistent. It's the only thing that's going to get the job done. It's not, I said this to somebody during the break, it's not a, I know everybody wants the magic pill, everybody wants the magic bullet, everybody wants to get there quicker. Who doesn't? We all want shortcuts. I'm here to give you shortcuts. But shortcuts, when you have a lot going on or a struggle that you're trying to, and the whole planet does, we're not going to do it in 6 days. We're probably not going to do it in 6 years, but in 6 years, man, we can make a big difference in it. And for those of you that are older and you're like, oh man, you know, 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't know if I'm going to be here. My thing when I was a child, I don't even know where I got it. I kind of do, but I kind of don't. Anyway, I was just born with it. I just knew from very early on in my life that it was very important for me to find inner peace. And it was very important for me to find inner peace before I made my transition from here. That's my simple way of saying that. And I still believe that. I still have that. I think it makes a big difference to what doors are open to you, depending on how you leave here. That would be the way I would put that simply. You know, I grew up Catholic, and it was like, well, there's heaven and there's hell, but I think that's a little too cut and dry for me. So the universe is all based on law of attraction. It's all based on magnets and electromagnetism and vibration. And just like the rainbow, and higher levels of the rainbow vibrate higher, they're lighter, you feel better. Red is cool, man. It looks awesome on a black uniform, and it looks really cool on a red Corvette parked out in the, it says Qigong Awareness on it right out there. It's black, red, okay, it says Qigong. It's really cool. Here's the thing, red is very painful. It causes a lot of inflammation. Green is heart energy. This shirt that you're wearing here, like this. This is starting to come up a little more into the throat chakra colors. But this is going to be more cooling and calming to the body. It's going to feel a lot better than wearing red. But I'm not just talking about wearing red, I'm talking about what you vibrate to. So learning your energy system, working with yourself. So anyway, there's I'm going to leave you with this. We'll take a little break. There's a saying, and the saying says, it's an old saying, it says, know thyself first. Didn't say know your neighbor, know your sister, know your best friend. It's know thyself first. Meditation and Qigong practices, yogic practices, so on. This is about knowing you. But it's about knowing many deeper levels of you than, okay, yes, I'm physical. Oh, I'm angry right now. Oh, okay, I'm emotional. Oh, now I'm sad. Okay, I'm emotional. Now there's a tape going. Well, my mother always said, my mother always did. Okay, well now I realize I'm mental also. I have a mental component. That was a little pun, but what you got, some of you caught that. So I may be mental in that way, all right, in a positive way or a negative way, but the tape is running, right? The spiritual, the metaphysical is what people want. It starts in the heart. Not just the physical heart, but the energetic heart. So when I had that opening and that clearing and I'm standing on the ceiling or whatever's going on, that's the beginning of the heart chakra opening. That's the beginning of those kinds of openings. But I tell you what, I had that experience, and I'm here, I'm working with you guys to keep having those experiences, because on this planet, for me personally, it's challenging. I mean, I go into that, and then you come back into the vibration of the world, and the vibration of the world is heavy. I mean, yesterday Tanya gave me an amazing acupuncture session. I highly recommend Tanya's acupuncture. I went in there yesterday and I told her, oh, I got to write you a new testimonial. And I said transported. I told her what the quotes are going to say. Because literally I was transported yesterday. Had a big week. I was, I teach, doing all these different things that I'm doing, prepping for this, the energy on the planet, feeling pretty heavy. Anyway, I was gone. I was in such a deep place. It was amazing. And now I had a Zen moment. I forget why I said that, because you got to go back to that place. That's what I'm saying. You got to go to that place and then come back. This is a place of work. There's no escaping that. This is a place of work. This is a planet of work on the level that it is. But if you can have those deeper timeouts, if you can have those deeper spiritual sort of like revelations and awakenings, it makes everything easier over 6 years, not over 6 days. 6 years, okay? I hate to be the messenger on that, but it's just how it is. I didn't think I'd be here at 54 talking to you when I was 15 or 20 doing this, and I didn't think it would take me that long to get to where I am, but it did. And I'm so excited about it that I want to see what more can I do. And not just that I'm so excited about it, it's that I'm still dragging deeper things too. You always drag deeper. There's always something deeper at the bottom of the river. But the moment you get down there and you see it and you chuck it overboard, guess what? Your boat gets lighter. you start floating around, okay? All right. Any questions about that meditation or anything that stirred for you guys before we take a little break? Any questions? Yeah.
Kind of connecting the meditation, but also with the marching. Do you have a practice where it's kind of a walking meditation, or are you actually just thinking about, I'm marching and connecting, or is there a little bit more to that?
Always more practices. Well, one of the things about me is that if you like these kinds of practices, you'll never get bored, because I have so many practices in the repertoire. And again, for me, it's cross-training. I think it's very powerful to practice standing meditation, then seated meditation. But you have to start somewhere. You can't just say to everybody, we're going to give you everything, right? So marching is the same way. Marching is like, I'm going to use that in a stationary position just to keep my legs awake, because one of the things that happens with Qigong and standing meditations is that your legs start falling asleep. And in some of the Qigong disciplines, because of where they came from and who taught them, maybe somebody's older, they can't do the yogic kind of, stretches and stuff, right? So then Qigong, some of the Qigong became, we don't stretch. But then you're just standing there and your legs have no blood circulation. So one of the ways to cheat and still not have to get down on the floor and do yoga is to march. Marching also helps the person stay grounded. Simultaneously, yes, like in my book, I talk about using what I call power thinking. We have a little time after break. We could talk about that a little bit outside. Actually, I can give you guys a little walk and a little reference on this. But I'll briefly introduce you to the idea. You're a walking bag of biology. I told you earlier, if you can take control of this, you can influence everything all the way down to your DNA. You can do that while marching. Walking with intent is what I also mean by marching. And using certain phrases, not just positive thinking, certain phrases, because whatever you hold here, that's what you're downloading into your biology. So if you understand that, then you can use certain techniques and so on to start influencing your body. I'll tell you about that when we get back. Any other questions? Yes.
This is, it's partly a question, but something I experienced. Even when we were going to see the meditation, I have this thing where I kick my legs even when I'm trying to go to sleep.
Yep.
So I felt that while we were trying to be still. So, but I felt like you answered it. You said meditation is going to help us be more conscious and aware of that deeper consciousness, that deeper, yeah, it's like, my head likes to kick.
This is very,
It's not something that's going to happen in 6 days, but that meditation will help.
yes. So, people will say, for example, like restless leg syndrome, they have things they talk about like that and they label things like that. But my experience with those kinds of things, it's like again, it's like a robotic twitch. It's like you have something that's like happening autonomically. It's automatically happening. But what that is from a like Oriental medicine, Qigong, Qi standpoint is simply, generally, it would be like, okay, well, you have blocked Qi. But then go further than that. You have emotions you're not dealing with. Now I'm going deeper. I just went deeper real quick. So those emotions are, again, the seat of those emotions is here in the gut. And that is the greatest obstacle that human beings face here on our planet today. The emotions that we experience. They take us over, and they can. And we have to learn to control them, and not just control them by shoving them down, but by working with them and alchemizing them, shifting them, changing your breathing patterns, etc. When you receive energetic work or acupuncture work or anything like this, when you're going into just like as you start to slip into sleep and then you're like, you'll do that, and that's like a realignment of your energy system. And you'll do that, like let's say you did some acupuncture treatments or you did some energy healing treatments, this type of thing, you would most likely in the beginning you'd be doing that, the twitch, the nervous twitch, and then all of a sudden, like boom, you drop into a deeper relaxation, because that's the stress that's keeping you from going deeper. That's the other simple way of saying it. That stress is just underneath the physical. And that's the stress that's keeping you from going deeper. Because presence, what we call presence or clarity of mind, or that, it's deeper than that. It's underneath that. Yes, yeah. And underneath that emotion, behind that emotion, that's where presence is. And when awareness, let's do it that way. When awareness, this is your emotion, when awareness grabs this, you become very heavy. If awareness can keep observing this without grabbing onto it, that's the game of meditation and Qigong. If awareness can detach itself from the heavy emotion, like you have heavy stress, heavy fear, whatever's going on, right? That's your awareness is locked onto it. Meditation is actually disengaging from it to be able to observe it. And then you realize this very, very profound thing. I am not that emotion. So let's say one of the heaviest emotions we have is like guilt or shame. All human beings have it. It's one of the heaviest. It's like the heaviest. It's at the bottom of the river. If you're grabbed onto that, I mean, you could just be completely homeless, living on the street, begging for quarters, just hating yourself, feeling unlovable. You're so attached to shame itself, guilt itself. That person starts meditating. They separate from that shame. I'm not saying they're going to go buy a mansion now in the law of attraction teaching or something, but not to dismiss that, but you know, that's the surface of the law of attraction teaching. They're going to go from being homeless to $350,000 house. Well, you know what? They may be homeless again 3 years later. Because anyway, but this is the deeper understanding why the Buddha left the palace. Because he knew, okay, I don't have it figured out yet. I'm going to go with all the people who are homeless and ashamed and feeling bad. And if I can be with that, I can be with anything. And so learning to separate from that's what meditation is. So that's what you're trying to do. That is something, it definitely does not happen overnight. I've been meditating for, 25 plus years. And, but over time, it's really profound. There's such a deep labyrinth within inside of ourselves. I won't take the time to try and describe it, but there are many aspects of ourselves. We're much more used to this and feeling hungry and feeling cold and feeling tired. We're not as used to what lives behind all of that. That's what meditation, this seated and still meditation and stuff is. Okay. Yes.
When I go from kind of a relaxed state to kind of a more deeper meditation, it used to be that it'd be some body part that would get uncomfortable. Now I get so hot.
I knew you were going to say that. I could tell I was building. Yeah.
Heat.
Yes.
And then it transitions, but it takes so long for that heat to go down. Is that part of?
Yes. So that is definitely part of the journey. You will get very, very hot until that the heat of the lower chakra centers purge a bit more and cleanse, and then the upper chakras open, and then the upper chakras are actually able to then feed the cool energy back into the fire. That's when you would get a rebalancing of the energy throughout the system. But initially it can go like that where somebody can be extreme cold, but for a lot of people it's like all of a sudden the meditation is building, the Qigong's building, and then bam, comes that fire. And that's part of the cooking and the melting pot process, and that's why you see pictures of like the Buddha with the belly. If the belly is like open and there's a picture, there's a cauldron there, a fire, that's what that's about. You're burning your past in that, you're burning your emotions in that. And in order to have that kind of spiritual fire, you have to be practicing something of value to create that kind of spiritual fire. Otherwise, you would not have that question and you would not have that spiritual fire. What's that?
Does it lighten?
Again, it lightens in that it goes from a very extreme heat to like a steam, and then the steam will rise and it becomes a gas, and as the gas rises, it starts to dissipate, and then the cooler energies start to open up, and then the cooler energies will balance it out. And in acupuncture, that is the Sanjiao channel, which is associated with the changing of and the balancing of temperatures. But it's also the chakra system itself. The green of the heart is very cooling. The blue of the throat, very cooling. The energies you're talking about are red and orange and yellow. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the heat that you feel when they go inside, but for me, whenever I stop, I always feel like I'm going like this.
Yes, that's the spirillic energy.
And
Mm-hmm.
when it gets to my head, I feel like my head want to explode.
Yes.
So I just like that.
Well, one thing is if you feel the pressure in your head, you need to do some work with your crown chakra. Because if the energy's coming up and like during meditation or anything, you guys ever get like a really bad headache or something, you need to open up the top of your head. So there's like there's some acupuncture points there, Ba Hui point. You can come here and just take your middle finger and kind of stimulate this area in the middle of the crown of your head. And then just keep holding your hand there, laying some attention there to try and get that to open up. You know, and it can also be the pressure of what's going on in your throat, because nose, ears, and throat get really stuck right there. And so, you know how I made that toning sound and I asked you all to just pay attention to what that does? You can either Om or you can actually just even make a humming sound. Humming causes a rest and digest through the body, and it helps open up that throat. So humming or toning can also help this, clear this. Yes?
When we were doing the tree dance, I was trying to pay attention to the saliva, like you said, changes, whatever. One thing that happened to me was, as I was getting deeper into it, longer and longer, all of a sudden I would be yawning once after another.
Yes.
And I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, why am I yawning? I'm not tired. Why am I yawning?
This is fantastic. I'm glad somebody brought that up, because again, there's only so much I can tell you. I said, bring me back something, right? So she brought back this yawning. Yawning is the next level of the unwinding. After we get past some plum pit chi and different things, very, very deep yawning would heal so many things that y'all are dealing with. The inflammation in the gut, the different aches and the pains and so on. Yawning, if you look it up in the dictionary or encyclopedia or whatever it is, like on Google, you say yawning, what's its function? They'll say none. They'll say it's a social thing. You yawn, I yawn, but it really has no purpose. But I tell you, after working on all the people that I've worked on over the years, yawning is an emotional release. Maybe you're tired at the end of the day and you yawn, we could call that an emotional release, but I'm not even saying that right now. I'm just saying during the work, meditation, during the work of clearing yourselves, like when I do medical Qigong and I'm working on somebody, whether it's on the computer or it's on in person or whatever the thing is, again, these are always things that I'm watching, right? And so when things start moving, right, a really good session would be like, say, 15 movements through the throat area. Now, what's interesting about that with medical Qigong is that I might have the movement, feel the movement, they don't feel it. I yawn 10 times. They don't even see me yawn. But maybe I'm on the telephone. I yawn 10 times, clearing the energy. And then I finally hear them yawn. Like they were very stuck, they finally get it. But once they do, that yawning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, it's very, very healing for the body. So that is the next step. That is the next step, yes, of unraveling your gut. Yeah, and healing some of the things that you asked me about. Yeah, all right? All right, take a little break. Give yourselves a brain break. That was a lot of information. Take 10 minutes, use the bathroom, go outside, walk around.